Hello. I've been doing the thumbnail pics, so I should start doing that again. So I did a video basically showing you that inside of Fairlight, if you go to like the project settings and you go to like the Fairlight section here, you set a target loudness, right? Loudness level. So basically what this thing is gonna do is that like YouTube, they have a target loudness level, an LUFS, which stands for, it says loudness units of relative full scale, right? I don't know, just weird ass fucking acronym for it. But anyways, the thing is that like this is like a measurement of loudness that TVs and even YouTube uses, even Spotify, right? There's like a level of loudness that they want you to be at to make sure everything stays consistent, right? So YouTube, they have a loudness level of -14. Television, broadcast, depending, say Europe or America, they have like a loudness level of around -21, right, depending. So the thing is, the point of setting like this target loudness level is that overall the project, when you start to adjust like the audio, it's gonna use this as the target loudness level. So pretty much in other words, if we go to Fairlight and I hit play, we actually want to like set this to what YouTube wants, is down to -14, right? Or in this case up to -14. Now, this is what YouTube wants at -14 to be at the loudest. Something that I learned is that if you, alright, so basically the integrated section of this loudness meter, when you start getting like the yellow number, -16, whatever, that's basically saying that you're in like the good range for the overall loudness of the video, right? Because that's what I want, -16 for myself, right? That way, if like, there's a part of like the video that peaks up or whatever, still under the -14 level that YouTube wants, right? So that's why I do -16. Also, getting very close to like the loudest peak level that YouTube wants, for me personally, I think it sounds too distorted and I don't like the sound of it, right? So there's something to keep in mind. You're able to select your audio, right? Say like, if you select it all and then you want to normalize the audio, right? That's something you have to do pretty much towards the end of your video once you have all the edits, right? Because you have a bunch of clips and all that crap. So you want to select, in this case, like this is from my lavalier mic connected to my phone, right? So if I right click after selecting it all, I can go down here to normalize audio levels. By default, it's going to be at the simple peak program, right? And it's going to have a target level of -9, I think, or whatever. Actually, what works best, I discovered, when I go down to basically the 1770-4, this is the same like measurement meter that we're using up here for our loudness meter, right? So we want to do, so I'm going to select that and I'm going to get this option, right? Now the cool thing about this is that we want to set our target loudness to match what we want overall for the project setting, right? We want it to be a -16. That's my target loudness, right? So I'm going to just set this up back to -16. You can type this, probably easier. So the target level, I want it to be to 0, right? Which is going to be like the highest point of our audio meter, right? But the target loudness is at 16. So in other words, pretty much the normalization of like our audio here is going to normalize everything close to like the top of like our audio meter, which is 0. But the target loudness is going to be 16, right? So I want to get closer to 16 as possible, right? So that's the point of me setting the target loudness to 16, which is what we want for our final render. And I just want to boost everything up close to like the top of our audio volume meter, which is 0, right? So I'm going to hit normalize, and it's going to do that. So give it a while. All right, so it's actually pretty fast. It's pretty good. It's audio, so it shouldn't be that big of a big deal, right? So once it's done, right, remember, you want to make sure like, you have this thing set to start, and you want to make sure that you're at absolute scale, lock metering to transport, and select 1770-4 right here, right? So we're good. Usually just hit resume, leave it alone, and start playing. Light. We go down here to like the settings, the project settings little wheel here. Click on that, and then you click on Fairlight where it says audio metering. There's a target loudness level. All right, so basically in our integrated section of our loudness meter, saying that we're at -19. So we got room to expand, right? So this is what we want to do. We want to increase this guy close to 16, right? Now, I already normalized this, right? So basically everything sounds okay, right? Everything is pretty balanced audio-wise. All we want to do is give it a little bit more of a boost to get closer to like the -16 loudness mark, right? So actually we're going to use the dynamics area over here, and I'm going to hide my face just cause. Quick side note, I posted it in the descriptions, but I made a video showing you how I clean up the audio in real time using OBS, right? Right at the moment as I'm speaking into like the mic, there are filters that I got off the internet that I installed into OBS, and also filters that I'm using that comes with OBS to help like remove any noise. I added some compression, and I also added some gain, right, into my mic. So the audio that I have itself as I'm recording this video sounds pretty good, so I don't have to do much in post, right? So basically what I'm going to do now in this video that I'm going to show you is I'm going to increase like the dynamics a little bit just to boost the audio a little bit up to get closer to like my target loudness that I want, which is -16, right? So be sure to like check out my video on how like to clean up your audio in real time using OBS, right? I'll put the link in the description, or I'll pin it in the comment section below. So we go back to our video. I'm gonna double click on the dynamics section for audio 1. So the cool thing is basically everything that's in audio 1. For this mixer section, the dynamics menu is gonna affect this entire track, right? So that's what we wanna do. Now this is, I'm in version Studio 18 at the moment. And like in 17, you didn't get any information in real time when like you played the audio, right? But now like with Studio 18, you actually see some like audio information up here, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it basically reduces it by like 10 decibels, right? So that way you don't have to mess around with the volume on your headphones. That way you can still have like an accurate reading. Alright, so this is pretty cool. You get some like little bubbles here that's kind of let you know where your audio is at and your voice, right? So instead of getting like a waveform, say like it does in Premiere Pro, you get like these little bubbles that let you know where you're at. Where it says volume and normalized, so you can have two. Alright, so the cool thing is, the first thing we're going to do is that I'm going to add a compressor, right? And the compressor, as you can see here, it kind of like clipped the bottom here. So what that's going to do is, like, this is like the top of like the loudness peak level for like the audio. So anything that audio starts to get to this point is going to get clipped off, right? It's going to be reduced in volume. Numbers, you're going to have like 193. You can see right here is getting like a gain reduction. So basically the volume versus 100%. Now I don't want it to clip off that much, so I'm gonna change the threshold maybe closer to like the top. You know, I don't want it to be that sudden, right? So basically we want to clip like the peak of our audio. That way like it's you know, it's just to keep it from clipping, right? But I don't want the threshold to be too low, right? I want to be closer to like the high peak area, right? Also I'm gonna increase the threshold. As you can see, like the higher the threshold is, the more sudden like the cutoff is going to be at, right? So around 4 is going to be, it should be okay, right? You don't need that much. And then the knee section, what that does is, here, let me just make this more extreme. The knee, what it does is basically, it kind of like rounds out the sudden cutoff, right? So it can be a sharp cut, and when you add a knee, it makes it more smoother, right? So it's more gradual, right? So that's basically what it is. So, you know, just a little bit. So I'm going to go back up to around, I don't know, say like 4 or 5. You know, it just want to be just the top. I don't want to add too much compression to the top. And that's basically this guy down here. So you can kind of see where like the bubbles start, you know, around this area. So I just want like, for me, I want to add the compressor just where like the bubbles like dance around. So if I, you know, reduce the volume, I'll say right here, it got reduced down to 15%, right? And then loudness, it kind of lets you know like where it's at also. So anytime like there's like a spike that passes that area, then it gets cut off, right? So I'm gonna set my threshold there. I just add a little bit more compression. It should be probably, usually don't want to go anywhere past 4, you know. Usually anything past 4, it sounds too like sudden, so you want to keep it like that. Now I'm gonna add an expander, right? Let me turn this on. So you get this bar here, right? Now the cool thing about the expander, it kind of works the same in Premiere Pro. They have something called dynamics processing, but it works a little differently, right? So I'm just gonna crank up the range here and the ratio just so you can see what's going on. Now the threshold, it's like the same thing as the compressor, how it cuts off the clip here, but in this case, it works the opposite, right? In this case, I'm reducing like the lower frequencies, which is basically like the noise and the hum, whatever. So we just put this back up 100 because that's what we want, right? Right, so basically what I'm trying to do is, this section right here is what I want to isolate, because this is where I mainly, you see like the audio of me speaking. So I want to basically set the expander and the compressor between this area where you can hear me speaking. Right now, what I want to show you is this, where it says normalized, where it says content loudness. If I hit play, actually 3 jobs. You know, I was working with Paul on and off, right? So it's gonna be around -40, right? Usually, that's where I set my threshold for most of my compressors, around -40. Anything underneath that is basically just noise, right? So I'm just gonna reduce the range a little bit. You know, that's just way too much compression. I was just like doing that to show you what I do. Ratio, it's the same thing, right? Basically, how sudden you want the cutoff to be, right? Attack, I just leave this alone, to be honest. So a 4 again is good. You don't want to get too much, right? You don't want to get too crazy. The ratio again, just a little bit. You don't want too much, right? You want like gradual compression, right? Be at 0, right? When you're watching the meters. All right, so I'm gonna try to put this side by side so you guys can see. Like, if we keep an eye on my loudness compared to like the dynamics here. Yeah, you got 0 here, right? So basically anything past 0 gets, again, we're in the integrated section, which just means the overall like average value of like the loudest is gonna be at -19. So I want to get closer to 16. But now by adding a compressor, which I just clip off like the top here, any little peaks, right? It gets reduced. The expander I only isolated this section off, and everything down here, it gets reduced, right? It gets like kicked down by compression. So now when I increase these, as you can see, this area gets boosted up, which this section still gets like kicked down, right? It's distorted and it doesn't sound good, right? So you want to be underneath this level so it doesn't get distorted, right? If you go back here, basically it says content. Now from like negative like 19, I'm up to 17, so I'm able to boost this up a little bit. So I'm gonna go like say like 3 or close to 4 makeup gain. Loudness 0.7. So with this video, I went over that 0 mark. Okay, now I'm too high. See, so I'm gonna go down to like say like 3.2 on the audio meter. So that means it got reduced to 93%. So all right, good. So we're good. Now, if we kind of like look at our meters here, we can still make some more adjustments if we want. That means is that basically see my clip here, maybe I want to reduce it a little bit more. Audio was a little too loud. Past that threshold, see, you're up to red. You don't want that. You want to make sure you get rid of the red. You want to make sure the threshold is good. So like, you know, you cut off any peaks. Threshold of 0. So it got reduced down to 93% from 100, right? So basically another same thing down here, you know, everything down here is basically noise, right? Like low hums or whatever. So I just want to reduce that a bit more. Whereas I went too loud for YouTube standards because I guess they have a certain threshold that they want you to keep, right? And that's something I learned, right? You know, when you watch TV and like the movie is at a certain volume, and then when it jumps into fucking like a commercial, like the volume sounds louder, right? All right, so basically this is how you try to like adjust the volume, right? Using like audio normalization, like I just showed you, and then like using like the dynamics here, we were able to like boost up our audio closer to like the target loudness that I wanted, which is negative 16, right? And yeah, like I said, make sure to check out my other video where I basically showed you how to like use real-time audio filters for your mic as when you're using OBS, right? Now, if you're not using OBS, you use it like an external lavalier mic, there's more work that you can do to like clean up the audio, but I'll make another video for that, right? So anyways, that's what I have to share with you in this video. Hope it helps. There's the QR codes. You want to help me buy some caffeine so I can roll out of bed and make more videos. I really would appreciate it. Any help is just greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot for watching this video, hanging out with me for a bit. Talk to you later. Peace.